In the headlines, Supreme Court affirms Ahmed Lawan as All Progressives Congress senatorial candidate for Yobe North. Kaduna, Kogi, Zamfara governments drag federal government to Supreme Court over Naira scarcity. Again, court sends EFCC chairman Bawa to Kuje prison for contempt, directs Inspector General of Police to arrest him. Away from Nigeria, death toll hits nearly 1,800 in Turkey, Syria after second major quake hit. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for joining. And now the details. The Supreme Court has finally recognized Senate President Ahmed Lawan as the authentic candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Yobe North Senatorial District. The Apex Court's decision sacks Bashir Machina, who was earlier recognized by the Federal High Court in Damaturu, as well as the Court of Appeal in Abuja. The report.
After the first sitting to deliberate and pass on the judgment, uncertainty reigned supreme as parties waited for the final pronouncement. After an hour of waiting, the court resumed sitting, and then Justice Santos Nweze, who read the lead judgment, held that the decisions of the Federal High Court in Yobe and the Court of Appeal in Abuja were perverse and must be set aside. Justice Santos Nweze faulted the approach of Bashir Machina in commencing the suit at the Federal High Court Damaturu Division through originating summons and without oral evidence to prove allegations of fraud. Outside the court, there were mixed feelings. None of the counsels in court felt the need to talk to media. However, some persons present in court broke the silence.
Alhamdulillah that today we are here at the Supreme Court having concluded the judgment between Ahmed Lawan and Bashir Machina. We are very happy that the judgment favored the Senate President, that by God's grace has now finally been delivered as the winner in this court. And by God's grace, we are gleefully going back to our Zansi, our constituency, to deliver him as the most successful candidate by 2023 elections.
Today we are very happy and satisfaction over the Lava victory. We are describing it as a political journey. This is a sign of rule of law. Thank you very much. We are very happy for that.
The aggrieved parties reserved comment as disappointment was written all over their face. The Supreme Court's decision puts to rest a legal battle that followed the ruling party's senatorial primary in Yobe North Senatorial District. Martia Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The governments of Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara states have dragged the federal government before the Supreme Court seeking an order restraining it from fully implementing the February 10 end date for the use of the old versions of the redesigned Naira note. In a motion expletive filed on their behalf by their lawyer, Abdul Hakim Uthman Mustafa SAN, the three northern states are urging the Apex Court to grant them an interim injunction stopping the federal government either by itself or acting through the CBN, the commercial banks or its agents from carrying out its plan of ending the time frame within which the now older versions of the 200, 500 and 1,000 denominations of the Naira may no longer be legal tender on February 10, 2023. The plaintiffs in the suit are the three Attorney General and Commissioners for Justice of the three states, while the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, is the sole respondent. The plaintiffs said that since the announcement of the new Naira note policy, there has been an acute shortage in the supply of the new Naira note in Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara states, and that citizens who have dutifully deposited their old Naira notes have increasingly found it difficult and sometimes next to impossible to access new Naira notes to go about their daily activities. No date has been fixed for the hearing of the suit. 13 out of the 18 political parties in Nigeria have threatened to withdraw from the February 25 and March 11 general elections in Nigeria if the federal government further extends the deadline for the use of the old Naira notes beyond February 10. At a briefing by a coalition of chairmen of the political parties on Monday, the 13 parties commended President Muhammadu Buhari for redesigning the 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes, and that the party said that they wouldn't be interested in the elections if the new deadline of February 10, 2023 is shifted as demanded by some governors of the All Progressives Congress. The national chairman of the Action Alliance, Kenneth Udeze, who briefed journalists, also knocked the Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara state governments for heading to the Supreme Court to get court injunction to extend the deadline for the validity of the 3 old notes. Meanwhile, residents of some communities in Plateau State say that business activities have been crippled due to the scarcity of both old and new Naira notes, especially petty trading, which relies on cash transactions. Some of the traders who lamented the cash scarcity, however, said that if the new notes are available, the old ones should be allowed or business transactions. Ado Musa completes the story.
Business owners and households across the country continue to lament how business transactions and other day-to-day economic activities are being affected by the recent Naira redesign policy. For traders in Yelwa community of Shandam local government area and Pinau community of Wasi local government area of Plateau State, the negative impact of the policy is getting out of hand with each passing day.
All of my customers are from village, local people. They only transact using cash. They don't actually use online banking. So due to this cash redesign and withdrawal limit, it makes it uncomfortable for me and them to transact.
As grain traders, we go to the villages to buy the grain, and the villages only transact with cash because they don't have bank accounts. As a result of that, we can't travel to the village to buy the grain. Our customers cannot come to us because they don't have the Naira note too. Things were going on well for us before the introduction of these new Naira notes. But today, we are finding it difficult. We took the old notes and deposited into the banks. And when we went to withdraw, they said there was no money. How can we sustain our businesses? The introduction of the new Naira notes by the central bank and the announcement of the deadline for transacting with the old notes continue to generate heated arguments among Nigerians, with many saying the scarcity of both the old and the new notes has crippled businesses in the country. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
In a similar vein, the Naira notes redesign policy has continued to adversely affect citizens as cash remains scarce among Nigerians. Abubakar Abdullahi reports that residents of Nasarawa State are not left out of the hardship occasioned by the unavailability of cash for daily transactions. His report is presented in our studio.
For about 3 weeks now, Nigerians have been going through difficulties in getting the nation's newly redesigned denominations of 1,000, 500 and 200 Naira notes. This has made it difficult to transact business using the denominations as their circulations remains minimal. Checks around commercial banks in Lafia Metropolis reveals that customers were found clustering around ATMs or at bank doors trying to withdraw cash. Trust TV gathered that some of these customers are only able to withdraw limited amounts as allowed by the various banks and not what the customers would have wanted to withdraw.
Getting cash this morning was talk of war. I had to be here as early as anything, and I could just have access to 5,000. The rest entering in was what they could offer. I couldn't stand at the ATM to struggle.
I withdrew a rate of amount of 10,000 naira, in which I'm in need of 20,000 naira, but the bank gave me 10,000 naira as their maximum amount of withdrawal per day. If I could get it, I will go. But what I know that there's no money in the POS. If you go to the POS, they charge you more. They charge you 10,000 naira at the rate of 12,000 naira, which I cannot be able to do that.
Trust TV also observed that CBN has deployed its staff to various banks, lessen the burden on banks, especially those who come to make deposits of not less than 10,000 naira. At different parts of the state, point-of-sales operators have run out of cash for their business.
Today and yesterday and day before yesterday, yesterday, will make it difficult to make a transaction because of the challenge of new Naira note in Nigeria. In my place here, Abuja Street, which is Shendarot in Abuja Street, before you get to 100,000 Naira, is so difficult.
Nasidi admitted that due to the difficulty in sourcing the cash, they are left with no option than to increase charges on withdrawals. A bank staff who spoke to Trust TV on condition of anonymity said the excesses of POS operators cannot be checked by the commercial banks due to their locations and mode of operations. He maintained that only the CBN can check the excesses of POS as the supplier and regulator of banks.
Now, amid difficulties occasioned by the Naira scarcity, some group of Nigerians staged a solidarity walk in Abuja supporting Central Bank new Naira policy. Noel Samson reports that thousands of Nigerians spent hours on automated teller machines to withdraw money. The report.
Chaotic situations like these are all over the country, with people struggling to get money. Many have lost their savings as grain traders experience falling prices to the scarcity.
Kasance a wannan waje tun karfe 5 na asuba kuma har yanzu ni ban samu namba na ba balatana ma a ce layi na yanzu.
I've been here since 5 a.m. but up to this moment I've not been issued a number, let alone joining the queue, because the rule here is that you must have a number first before joining the queue. I just need some cash to run my family.
Ya muna can wala saboda yanzu haka nan ko da abincinka ne ya kare a gida, even 5,000 zaka nema sai ka ci wala ta ka zo ka bi layi ko mara lafiya kake da shi.
We are facing a lot of problems. It is terrible because you have money but cannot access it. What type of policy is that? If, for instance, you run out of foodstuffs or come down with any health challenge, how will you address that?
But this group is in support of the CBN Naira redesign policy. Azik Balami, who is the convener of the Solidarity Walk, stressed the importance of the new Naira policy and hence his support.
The issue of vote buying is a major problem. It has destroyed Nigeria. It has destroyed the entire continent. And enough is enough. What we are saying here now is we are aware that the Central Bank of Nigeria has released money to all the banks. All the banks have money. But politicians are buying this money from them at a higher cost, at black market rate, thereby frustrating the citizens to go against CBN, to go against the government. We are saying no.
A situation where you have 2.7 trillion naira outside of the banking system
in the pockets of people,
held up in homes, at bunkers and everywhere, does not augur well for the Nigerian economy. And that is the major reason why this Naira redesign. And we are saying that these monies should come back to the votes of the CBN and also permit the banking system so that we will be able to control the money supply in the system and also make our monetary policy very effective. And that is what we are doing. We are fully persuaded that what we are doing is for the benefit of the Nigerian people. We are very, very apolitical. We do not belong to any political persuasion, but what we know is that this is not targeted at anybody.
State governors have called for extension of the old Naira circulation till end of the year, just as National Assembly has recommended 6-month extension. President Buhari will decide on the policy before the new deadline. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdurrashid Bawa, has been committed to prison for allegedly disobeying court order. The court also directed the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, to effect Bawa's arrest and remand him in Kuje prison for the next 14 days until he purges himself of the contempt. Justice R.O. Ayola of the Kogi State High Court, in his judgment on Monday, granted the application for committal to prison of the EFCC chairman for disobeying a court ruling delivered on November 30, 2022, wherein the EFCC chairman was directed to produce the applicant in the case Ali Bello. Ali Bello had dragged Bawa to court for arresting and detaining him illegally. The court ruled in his favor, but the EFCC later arraigned him for alleged money laundering 3 days after the ruling. The EFCC's applications for setting aside stay of execution of the ruling were refused for want of merit, while the court ordered the respondents to tender an apology to the applicant in a national newspaper and awarded 10 million naira compensation for him. A federal high court in Abuja on Monday discharged former governor of Imo State, that's Rochas Okorocha, of 2.9 billion naira fraud charge preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Justice Inyang Eko, in a ruling, struck out the EFCC's suit for being in contravention with Section 105, Sub 3 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which gives the Attorney General of the Federation the power to recall a case. Justice Eko said that the directive of the AGF and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, in a letter dated September 12, 2022, to the Anti-Graft Agency to forward the case file as well as the EFCC's comments on the issues for consideration and review was binding on the Commission. Besides, Justice Eko agreed with the defendants that the earlier judgment of a court of coordinate jurisdiction sitting in Port Harcourt between Okorocha and the EFCC restraining the agency for further proceeding on the alleged offense had not been set aside. According to him, the order is binding until it is set aside. You're watching the news update on Trust Television, coming up shortly. Group advocates more awareness screening. Details of this and more after the break.
Security has to be an area they must work on.
We are going to have our own country called Biafra.
You are afraid to come out and move about, lest one hoodlum or the other will harm you.
People who have guns and the rest of them could be attacked. How about we, the helpless citizens?
Olo office was attacked. The ISU office was attacked.
I haven't even seen where people are going to collect their PVC for voting.
The IPOB people, they're not criminals, but they're just crying out for justice and help.
We would deploy reasonably and strategically to make sure that we decimate the activities of these bad elements who are causing problems in the land.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back from that break. This is the news update on Trust Television. Here's a look at the top stories again. Supreme Court affirms Ahmed Lawan as All Progressives senatorial candidate for Yobe North. Kaduna, Kogi, Zamfara governments drag federal government to Supreme Court over Naira scarcity. Now, a federal high court in Gombe has dismissed a lawsuit filed by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, seeking disqualification of the governorship candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Kamisu Mai Lantarki, from participating in the upcoming gubernatorial election in the state. The PDP alleged that the NNPP governorship candidate forged his certificates. Counsel for the NNPP candidate, Herbert Nwe, said that the judgment has cleared the coast for his client to contest the election.
Say that somebody has forged school certificates, somebody has forged NYSC certificates, somebody has forged university certificates, and you are not having the facts towards establishing all those things. Apart from the law of defamation, you have really dealt blow unjustly to the person, and he can sue them for that.
Is this judgment indicated that Melanturki is fully qualified to contest any position he wants?
He had no impediment as it is today. He has no impediment, no hindrance, no barrier. We had the matter and we adopted all our respective processes before the court. The court on Wednesday, about 2-3 days ago, delivered its judgment and dismissing the suit, sustaining the preliminary objection on account of locus standi, on account of the action being statute barred. These are the two grounds the court sustained it, saying that considering the claim before it, that the plaintiff did not comply with the requirement of section 285 that requires that such suits should be filed within 14 days from the time the cause of action accrued. And considering their reliefs, the cause of action accrued from the time the primaries of New Nigerian People's Party took place.
Ahead of the February 9 commemoration of the World Cancer Day, the Federal Ministry of Health, in partnership with non-governmental organizations, is creating more awareness on cancer disease through a walk and run exercise in the Federal Capital Territory. During the walk, organizers called for regular status checks through screening, as early detection and prompt access to care are critical to eradicating the menace. The report.
The World Health Organization says approximately 1.1 million new cases of cancer are recorded each year in Africa, with about 700,000 deaths. Nigeria, according to Global Cancer Observation, has the highest cancer mortality rate in the world, with 4 out of every 5 cancer diagnoses ending in death. This year's campaign theme focuses on closing the care gap by uniting voices and taking action.
I think we need to implement a top-down approach for prevention. So we need to increase our screenings, we need to start introducing vaccinations like we do in England, where as long as you're in school, you get vaccinated for, you get the HPV vaccine. That should be a compulsory thing in school as well to decrease the rates. We need to get people checked for prostate cancer, we need to get people checked for pap smears, we need people to know how to check for breast cancer, for colon and stomach cancer, etc.
Creating of awareness. Then this advocacy, contributing the small quota that you can to the treatment. Fine, the treatment is expensive, but if you can make it readily available, maybe someone coming up, we can just leave everything to government. As an organization, as an individual, you can get the ultrasound machine, put it in the community, tell them once in a month, come and have your screening at the size here. Something we can do as an individual.
With cancer care and treatment unaffordable and sometimes unavailable to people, especially those in the rural areas, the Ministry of Women Affairs is calling on women to go for regular screenings and take advantage of the cancer care provided by the Ministry of Health.
They have opened a cancer fund, which is accessible in most government hospitals. A lot of people who cannot afford the cancer care register under this cancer fund and they are being treated. So government has stepped in to close that gap in a way.
National screening is not something that is done in Nigeria. We don't have it. And it's something they should implement, national screening. We should have a day for screening, for cancer screening, so people can go to a nearby health center, a nearby hospital to get themselves screened.
The WHO projects a considerable increase in cancer mortalities to nearly 1 million deaths per year by 2030, but believes that the trend can be reversed with bold interventions like governments developing and updating the national cancer control plans and providing sustainable financing. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, away from Nigeria, the most powerful earthquake in nearly a century struck Turkey and Syria on Monday, killing nearly 1,800 people in their sleep, leveling buildings and causing tremors felt as far away as Greenland. The 7.8 magnitude early morning quake, followed hours later by a slightly smaller one, wiped out entire sections of major Turkish cities in a region filled with millions who have fled the civil war in Syria and other conflicts. Rescuers used heavy equipment and their bare hands to pull back rubble in search of survivors who they could, in some cases, hear begging for help under the rubble. The head of Syria's National Earthquake Center, Raed Ahmed, called it the biggest earthquake recorded in history of the center. The initial quake was followed by more than 50 aftershocks, including a 7.5 magnitude tremor that jolted the region in the middle of search and rescue work on Monday afternoon. And in sports news, Leeds United have parted ways with their manager Jesse Marsch after a series of poor performances in the Premier League. The Whites took the decision following a 1-0 Premier League defeat to fellow strugglers Nottingham Forest on Sunday. That result had extended their recent record and leaves the club without a win in their last 7 league matches. After a 1-0 defeat at the hands of Nottingham Forest on Sunday, Leeds are now languishing just above the relegation zone, tied on points with 18th placed Everton. And that's a wrap on Trust News Update. You can watch more via all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.